I know it was a long journey there for all of us, and I know there are still a whole bunch of issues. This is the introduction to something that I've been writing, and of course, you know, our theology has been corrupted by New Age, by Christian syncretismo. It's been affected by Eastern philosophies. It's been damaged to the point where it doesn't really exist. There's a lot of pretense that it exists, but it does not. And I myself have had a lot of confusions over the last 40 years of studying this, going back to the 60s and 70s when this whole New Age thing came about. And of course, before that, there was the syncretismo of the matachines and the concheros, where they were mixing Christianity, so the crosses were in there in the so-called sacred dances. There have been a lot of horrible things that have happened, but the reality is we don't have the teachers. They were executed. We don't have the warriors. They were executed. We don't have the leadership that is going to help us out of this. That's what we do with the work of the Mexica movement, is to educate our people so that we can be studiers of our heritage, of our theology, of how we're going to liberate ourselves. So with that, any questions? Go right ahead.
Is there any books that you can point to that decipher like the code of law or code of conduct within either the Mexica movement, the Mexica civilization, or others?
Yeah, I brought actually a few of the books. Part of the problem is, you know, these have been, this one was printed just this year, you know, in translation into English. This is an old one that was composed in the 1500s by a Spanish priest. This one is a more recent one by a guy named Leon Portilla that you know. This one was by a guy named Duran in the 1500s. This is part of what's called the Florentine Codex, one of 12 books. And we can look at other studies, you know, that have been presented to our people, like something called The Flayed God, which is a horrible title to this book, but there's a lot of good information in it. Stories in Red and Black, which basically tell us a little bit of the books that have survived. Okay, so you just look at what we have right here. Okay, there are European translations, interpretations, misinterpretations. And how do you get to the truth of this? You study it. It's kind of like you have the Jewish rabbis. They have their book, right? The Torah, the book of laws. Now, these people must be very stupid because they go through it again and again and again and again. Are they morons? No, they're studying. Who do we have that's doing that for our heritage? You. Well, I wish I could be doing it every day like the rabbis. I wish I could be doing it every way I could, but I can't. But this, yeah, 40 years, okay, it doesn't mean every day, you know. And the thing of it is that, yeah, you can go into, this is actually compiled of what's something that's called the Florentine Codex. Okay, in that, it does talk about the morality. Okay. Granted, okay, it was compiled by a Catholic priest, but he compiled it in Nahuatl and then translated it into Spanish. And that's where you can catch the things, okay? It's like one of the things when you go into some of these materials and it goes Nahuatl, 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 and then the word Dios, okay? As opposed to Teot. Again, all these interpretations of the word Teot, oh, it means gods, or it means energy, or it means, when you read it in context, in many, 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 many books, not one book that, you know, or one page that you read somewhere, but when you read it in many, many contexts, it's not talking about gods, it's not talking about energy, it's simply talking about something that is sacred. And that's part of the problem. in going into this, yeah, it shouldn't just be me. There should be hundreds of us studying these materials. Okay, what I read to you is just the introduction to something that I'm working on that, I don't know. You know, I may work on that another 20 years. I'm 60. I say, I might make it, you know. But there should be, part of what we're trying to do is we're trying to educate other people, so when I die, there will be others continuing the study. So that we don't just study this, that we live this. Because the reality of it, when we look at our heritage, we have to look at it the way it was, not the way the Europeans interpret it to us. That's why, yeah, you can read Diego Duran, okay, he's Eurocentric, he's even a racist, but he gets a lot of different details from all over the place, and then you get it from another one, and another one. And there is some truth. They did invade in 1519. Okay, that's one truth. You know, you pull that truth out, you set it over here. You read some more books, you pull some more truth, and you set it down, the hard truth you can find. Okay? But how do you come to that conclusion, though? You have to study and restudy and do a lot of research. When I first started doing this research, I was a kid in East LA, and I had to go all the way downtown to the main library because our local libraries didn't have any of this because, you know, why would we be interested in this? Most of these are written by somebody named Markman. Here's another one written by somebody. Our own people aren't interested. Even when we get somebody like Leon Portilla, that I think most of you are familiar with, who read into this, he's a very Eurocentric guy. He's a racist. Now, do we throw out everything that he's written? He wrote a very good book called Aztec Thought and Culture. You can see it's the old version here. But I don't reject it all. If anything, I've gotten a lot of good insights. He contradicts himself. Again, it was a theology of one creator, and then suddenly it's gods. They go back and forth because of their own Christianity. Because if they admit, this is part of the problem with white people in general. I'm talking about the good white people. When they look at things and they say, yeah, that's truth, but that speaks not really well of my people. So when somebody like Leon Portilla looks at this, he's trying to defend Christianity. And he's trying to defend the white race at the same time, but he's trying to admire our people. And he's saying, look, I've learned now what, and here, these are the translations and all this. But see, we need somebody who is not Spanish-centric. We need somebody who is Nicantlaca-centric when we're reading all of this. And sometimes people will say, our own people and white supremacists, oh, you guys are Mexica-centric or you're Nicantlaca-centric. Yes, thank you. Because the rest of my people are Eurocentric. That's the way I was born. I was born into a situation where I was very Eurocentric. I didn't start questioning any of this until I was about 12 years old. And even then, I couldn't get the answers. You can't wait around and sit around and say, somebody's going to come and educate me. Somebody's going to come and liberate me. You actually have to do something. In those days, it meant I got on the streetcar and went downtown LA.